Is the Archangel Gabriel actually Jesus? In Daniel's first vision of the night, he sees the Son of Man riding on a cloud. This man is Jesus, Yahweh, who rides on a cloud. Then in Daniel 9:21, he says the man from his first dream came to him. His name, Gabriel.
So is Jesus the angel Gabriel? This question might seem pretty heretical at first. I found this when I was going through Luke 1 this morning, and I thought it was interesting. And I'll explain why in a second. But as you go through the first part of Luke, and they're describing all of the steps that Zacharias is going through, a lot of it seems like it's the angel of the Lord from the Old Testament. And the angel of the Lord from the Old Testament is very much a theophany. So that was my question, because most of it seemed like that angel of the Lord from the Old Testament, and then he comes in Luke 1:19 and says, I am Gabriel, and I stand in the presence of God. Is Jesus the angel of the Lord? And this is not a super debated topic, but I was just going to go over it real quick. So there's lots and lots of verses. I just picked a few. The first one we're going to hit is John 8:58. So Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. And we know that this I am to what God said to Moses. I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel. And this is what he told to Pharaoh. So this is just a roundabout way in John 8:58 of Jesus saying, hey, I'm God. But that doesn't answer the question of, is Jesus the angel of the Lord? That just answers the question of, is Jesus alluding to the fact that he's God? So in Genesis 16:7-14, we've got the angel of the Lord is speaking to Hagar, right? She's run away. She's the servant of Sarai, and she's had Ishmael. So God had promised Abraham a son. And instead of Abraham waiting and having a son with Sarai, who he was supposed to have one with, he wanted his son, and he slept with Sarai's servant Hagar, and he had Ishmael. Sarai gets jealous, sends Hagar and Ishmael out. So this is the angel of the Lord speaking to Hagar. So you can see here in verse 7, the angel of the Lord found her, this is Hagar, by a spring of water in the wilderness. So, and then for the rest of this, it's talking, the angel of the Lord is talking to Hagar. The angel of the Lord said to her. The angel of the Lord also said to her. The angel of the Lord said to her, right? Until we get down to verse 13. And it says, so she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her. Yahweh. This is Yahweh right here, you can see. So this angel of the Lord that was speaking to Hagar is the Lord. This is Yahweh. All right. So now let's go to another example of this. We've got Genesis 31:11-13. So then the angel of God said to me in a dream, Jacob, and I said, here I am. And he said, lift up your eyes and see, all the goats that mate with the flock are striped, spotted, and molted. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel. Wait. So let's look at this. Then the angel of God said to me, I am the God of Bethel. Let's do another example here on if the angel of the Lord is God. So let's look at Exodus 3:2. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush. Right? Let's scroll down and let's look. And then he said, so this is the angel of the Lord, do not come near, take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. And he said, I am the God of your father. Elohi, right? Not Elohim, so this is singular. I am the Elohi of your father. The Elohi of Abraham, Elohi of Isaac, and Elohi of Jacob. So this angel of the Lord, almost every time we see this angel of the Lord in the Old Testament, this is referring to God. It's the messenger, because that's what malak means, right? This word malak means is messenger, the messenger of the Lord. But the messenger of the Lord is the Lord. And we know that this messenger, right? This messenger comes and says things to people. He speaks. And who is the Word? We've got John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. And then later in John 1, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Right? So this Word that sends messages, that comes and delivers messages to Yahweh's people, is the Lord, but is referred to as the Malach, right? And Malach's an interesting word, considering that they just added the Aleph in this word, which if you took it out, it would mean king. So I like to think of angels and these Malach as these spiritual kings, right? So this is a spiritual king of the Lord. Let's go and look at the New Testament. So we've got Acts 7:38. So this is the one who was in the congregation in the wilderness with the angel who spoke to him at Mount Sinai. He spoke to him at Mount Sinai with our fathers, and he received living oracles to give us. Based on our Old Testament reading, that the person that Moses was speaking to in the Old Testament was God. Right here in Acts, they're saying, oh, this God that was giving all these commandments to Moses on Mount Sinai, that was Jesus. That was just Jesus. So we got, is Jesus equal to the angel Gabriel and the angel of the Lord? I think based on what we have here, we definitely know that angel of the Lord is equal to God, right? Now let's look at, and there's going to be another step of symbolism here. So we're going to talk about the cloud. So this is the cloud of God, this Theophic glory cloud, and this has to do with incense and some other things. So first, we're going to start off with Genesis 9:13. So I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. So just remember this cloud. He set his bow in the cloud. So what is in the cloud? We're going to look at one more verse, and then we'll answer that question. What is in the cloud? Let's look at Ezekiel 1:28. So like the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud on the day of rain, so was the appearance of the brightness all around. Such was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell on my face, and I heard the voice of one speaking. So this bow in the cloud is similar to the likeness of the glory of the Lord. This bow in the cloud. So now we can go to Isaiah 19:1. This says, an oracle concerning Egypt. Behold, the Lord, Yahweh, is riding on a swift cloud and comes to Egypt. So the Lord is riding on a swift cloud. But the Lord put the bow in the cloud. This was based on Genesis 9:13. The bow that is in the cloud is also the Lord. It's just a different representation of Yahweh. It's not the Father. It's Jesus. Jesus is the cloud rider. And we know this because we can look at Daniel 7:13. I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man. Jesus often referred to himself as the Son of Man. And what's he doing? He's with the clouds of heaven. He's riding on the clouds. He is the cloud rider. And this is a little bit of a dig at Baal or Enlil for the Babylonian gods, because they saw Baal as the cloud rider. But no, it's Jesus. Jesus is the cloud rider. Jesus is the bow. That bow is a sign of war. right? Remember that the bow is a sign of war, and God was putting the bow in the clouds to say he's putting his bow down for now, and he's not going to destroy the world again with the flood. So based on this, I think we've established that Jesus is God, right? This has to do with Daniel 7:13. One like the Son of Man was riding on the clouds. And we know that the Lord rides on the clouds based on Isaiah 19:1. So if Jesus is God and the angel of the Lord is also God, that would make the angel of the Lord is equal to Jesus. So let's talk a little bit before we get into Gabriel. We're going to get into Leviticus, everyone's favorite book. But I'm not going to stay there too long because I know how much everyone loves it. I'll tease you guys for later. So the Day of Atonement. This is Leviticus 16:1. We're going to go read Leviticus 16:1 and 2. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron. So this is when Aaron's sons burned the strange incense and made the strange fire, when they drew near before the Lord and died. So they burned the wrong incense and they died. And the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron your brother not to come at any time into the holy place, inside the veil, before the Kepharat, right? This is covering, before the covering that is on the ark, so that he may not die. For I will appear in the cloud over the covering, right? This Kepharat. So he's going to appear in the cloud so that he doesn't die. What is the cloud? I'm glad you asked. Leviticus 16:13. And put the incense on the fire before Yahweh, that the cloud of the incense may cover the Kepharat, the covering that is over the testimony, so that he does not die. So the cloud kind of hid God's presence so that the person who was going into the Holy of Holies wouldn't die. So why is this important? Why is the cloud important? Well, we know that the angel of the Lord, or that the Son of Man rides on the cloud. Right? So let's look at Exodus 14:19. Then the angel of God, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them. So when they're traveling, the angel of God, which we've established, this is Jesus, was in a pillar of cloud and stood behind him. It all just adds up. Look, let's look at Exodus 33:9. When Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of the tent, and the Lord would speak to Moses. So this pillar of the cloud, which had the angel of the Lord, which is Jesus, would speak, because Jesus is the Word, to Moses. And this is all in the Holy of Holies. All of this is in the Holy of Holies. Right? So now we can start talking about Gabriel. What does this have to do with Gabriel? We can go to Luke 1:9. So this is talking about Zacharias. So Zacharias was chosen by Lot to enter the temple of the Lord, and he did what? He burned incense. So he's making this cloud. He's going to make this cloud. And it's important to know historically that at this time, no one, the presence of God had not been going into the cloud. That cloud of glory that God used to go into was not there. He hadn't been in it in 400 years since the building of the second temple. And what happens when he burns the incense? And there appeared to him an angel of the Lord in this cloud. We've got an angel of the Lord in the cloud. And what is that in the Old Testament? That is the bow. The angel of the Lord in the cloud is the bow, the Son of Man who rides on the clouds. And what is he doing? He's standing on the right side of the altar of incense. Let's go and look at Genesis 22:15. What does this angel of the Lord do? What does he do? He delivers messages, but what's something else he does? And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, "By myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this and have not withheld your son and your only son, I will surely bless you, and I will surely multiply your offspring." He tells him about his offspring. This angel of the Lord, man, he tells people about his offspring a lot. And this is that same angel of the Lord. That's Jesus. Jesus is going and telling people that you're going to have kids. Here, I'm gonna bless you. I'm going to give you a lot of offspring. And what does the angel of the Lord in Luke 1:13 do? And the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear a son. And you shall call his name John." So he's bearing a son. But wait, that's not the only time. Now we can look at Luke 1:26, because in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel, now we're getting into Gabriel, was sent from God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary. And Mary found favor, and he said, "Behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son." You're going to conceive and bear a son. Let's look at one tiny little thing. In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God, sent from Theo. And what did he say? Who's Mary with right here? Who is Mary with? She by herself? It's nighttime. It says, "Greetings, O favored one. The Lord is where? He's with you." The only person with her is the angel Gabriel. He's saying, "Oh, by the way, the Lord's here." Jesus was telling Mary that she was going to have a child. And guess what? It was going to be him. It was going to be Gabriel. Daniel's first dream. So in the first year, so this is Daniel's first dream, saw a dream and visions of his head as he lay on his bed, and he wrote down the dream and told the sum of the matter, right? So this is his first dream. And as part of his first dream, what happens? Let's look. We already went over this. We looked at it. And behold, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man. So he saw Jesus in his dream. This is important. He saw Jesus in his dream. And then what happens in Daniel 8:15-16? "When I, Daniel, had seen the vision, I sought to understand it. Behold, there stood before me one having the appearance of a man. And this man was called Gabriel. And he made him understand the vision." Okay, so Gabriel comes to him after his second dream. Remember, his first dream is the one where he saw the Son of Man. And then we go to Daniel 9:21. "When I was speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the first," let's read this in the Septuagint because it makes more sense. "While I was speaking in my prayer, then look, the man whom I had seen in my first sleep, Gabriel, was swiftly coming on. He drew near to me at the time of the evening sacrifice." The last thing we can talk about is the name. Now we know that God has multiple names. He's Elohim, he's Yahweh, Yahweh Sabaoth, Jehovah Rapha. He's got so many names. So why couldn't his son Jesus, Yeshua, Emmanuel, have multiple names as well? Why couldn't Gabriel be one of his names? And the name Gabriel, as we look at this, would make sense for Jesus and how people in that time would interpret who the Messiah was going to be. First, we'll just look at Isaiah 7:14. "And behold, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son and call his name Emmanuel. Now we know that when Gabriel comes to Mary, he doesn't say name him Emmanuel. He says to name him Jesus, right? And when you look at this, Emmanuel means God with us. So God's going to be with us. And what's the best way to be with us? If God is man. So we'll look at the dictionary of deities and demons. So the best way for God to be with us is if he's a man. And we can look at the name Gabriel and see that the name is usually understood as man of God, right? So that's Gabor and El. But it's better taken as God is my hero or warrior, because that's Gabor-E, right? So that's this part, Gabor-E, and then El is God. We could look at this warrior of God, because Jesus, we know, is the right hand of God, and that right hand symbolizes power. And so many people thought that the Messiah was going to come and free them from the oppressive rule of the Romans. This is not misunderstood by them. They understood the Messiah as coming to be a war hero. But how did he come the first time? Well, I do believe he came as a war hero. It was just a spiritual war hero. He destroyed so many of the old gods when he died on the cross. But the next time he comes, he's going to be a more physical war hero, I believe. So this name still fits, and it has two meanings. He is man of God, so physical man of God, as well as being a war hero. I just thought this was so cool for the angel of the Lord. So what does this mean? We can look at this, and man, this makes Luke 1 very interesting, where Gabriel comes to John the Baptist's mother and to Mary and tells them that they're going to have sons. So if Gabriel is Jesus, that would mean that Jesus came to them before he was made into the Son of Man, the physical Son of Man, and before he was born, and he came and told them what to name their children. So in essence, he was saying, hey Mary, name me Jesus. Now once again, these are all theories. I'm not saying that any of this is 100% correct. I just found it interesting. So please let me know what you think in the comments. If you got any other questions, I'm not afraid of these odd topics, right? Is Gabriel equal to Jesus? That I know it seems heretical. It seems almost blasphemous to even ask, but I don't think that it's wrong to ask those questions. Because if I'm asking these questions, I'm sure someone else has asked these questions before. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you've got any suggestions or arguments for it, please let me know. I'm open to all of that. Like and subscribe, and I will be back next time.